All right, from one side of the conversation, now let's get some other possible perspectives from Frank Gaffney. He is the president of the Institute for the American Future, president and CEO of Save the Persecuted Christians, and host of Securing America on Real America's Voice Network, and a contributor to this program for a number of years. Frank, nice to see you again.
It's great to be with you, Steve. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about this. As I was just telling you, Gregory Slayton, the former ambassador to Bermuda through the George W. Bush and Barack Obama administrations, says that his tea leaves are telling him that there's been a great reshuffling of the power of the Chinese government, that Xi Jinping could soon see the door. Has not appeared in the People's Daily for 2 weeks now. Other politicians are on the cover. He said, most people wouldn't think that's a big deal. He said, in China, that's a big deal. And he said there are reformers coming. But as you pointed out, on many occasions, reformers, that doesn't mean friend to the United
Mm.
States, does it?
No, it doesn't. I caught a bit of the interview and it was very interesting. Deng Xiaoping, I think, was meant he was sort of holding up as an example of a guy
Right?
that was bringing great reform and wanted to do business with the United States. Deng Xiaoping was also the guy who brought us Tiananmen Square,
Yeah.
the anniversary of which we were marking this week, of course. He also brought us,
Which, by the way, for people that don't remember, 10,000 Chinese were slaughtered
yeah,
because they were
and
talking
that
about freedom, right?
Yeah. And that was just in the square. There may have been
Right.
50,000 across the country, but whatever the number is, it was a horror. And unfortunately, we sort of seized upon it. George H.W. Bush sent his national security advisor, Brent Scowcroft, off almost immediately thereafter and said, look, we're not going to let this interfere with our improving relations. We want you to, do business with us. In fact, uh, bring your slave labor to bear so that we could profit from it. I think that Deng Xiaoping also should be remembered as the man who brought us famously a statement that was the effect of the Cold War. This is 1992, I think. The Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union is over. The Soviets lost. A new Cold War has begun between the United States and China will win. And he began the process that's come to be known as unrestricted warfare against the United States. So yeah, he did business with us, including expropriating immense amounts of our industrial base. And I'd beware of reformers like him that might be in the offing. But Xi Jinping is a bad dude. Make no mistake about it. It'd be nice to see his departure. But I think we just have to be very chary about finding people who are all about putting a new blood into the Chinese Communist Party. The right answer here, as those folks in Tiananmen Square and across the country were seeking, was the end of the Chinese Communist Party. That's really what's in our vital interest, I believe.
Well, and in fact, Frank, you argue that there's an expanding iron curtain. I mean, look, I can see the infiltration. We've been talking about it all morning here. This whole incident out of Michigan with this
Mm.
pathogen, this fungus that would destroy corn, wheat, rice, and barley.
Yeah.
And talking to farmers here on the program yesterday, they said if it was uncontrollable, it could easily wipe out 50% of their yields, half. And it wouldn't just be restricted to America because these things get airborne. It would be in
Mhm.
Canada. It would be in Mexico, it would be in Argentina, and all the big food producing nations. But the problem is, it probably also end up in China or India, unless they've already developed fungus resistant crops there and would be prepared for it. I mean, that is, I don't know why so many roads lead back to the University of Michigan, but that's just one example of students there that are going up and taking pictures at Camp Grayling here last year, claiming, oh, we're journalists. Maybe that was 2023. This event now, look, all of these Chinese students that Donald Trump says we need to restrict, he's right, isn't he?
I think he's 100% right. We got to get him out of the country, truth be told. Just another interesting data point, Steve, on Deng Xiaoping. There was a defense minister of China who was uh, caught with a transcript of remarks that he made about 20 years ago, in which he said Deng Xiaoping had actually directed the illegal, by the way, illegal biological warfare program of communist China to have as its mission depopulating the United States so that it could be colonized by China. not exactly a
Well,
moderate
that's
reformer.
China's plan for the world, though, Frank. I mean,
Well,
everything under
but
heaven, right? Isn't that the saying? Everything under heaven is Chinese. That's what they truly believe. That we're just another province in waiting. Not just Taiwan, but every country, 190 countries on the planet, are just provinces in waiting. Are they not?
yeah. Well, you're so right. The world domination, the center of the universe, all of that, the Middle Kingdom is part and parcel of their strategy. But I think we have to take particular note of the idea of using biological warfare. Does this sound familiar? COVID
Yeah, yeah,
19. Now you're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about agro terrorism. I mean, these are
Fungus.
deliberate steps by a very hostile power that is at war with us. And that's going back to your question about a new Iron Curtain. I hope that it won't come to that, but I'm very concerned, I have to say, about this election that took place in South Korea a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
This is not a moderate. This is not a center leftist who's come to power. This is a
No, this is
guy
a far
deeply
left.
aligned with
Yeah,
the Chinese Communist Party and the North Korean regime, far left.
yeah.
And I fear
All
that
true.
his stated purpose is to get the American occupying army, as he puts it, out of South Korea, and
South
I think
Korea. Yeah.
unify the peninsula on pretty much the terms of the Chinese and the North Koreans. It would be a disaster for our security
That
interests
would create
in South Korea.
another war, I believe, in Korea. We'll see what happens. Frank, I got to leave it there.
Pretty much.
Greatly
Thank you.
appreciate your input and your insight as always, my friend. We'll talk soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Steve.
There, but Frank Gaffney, everybody. Again, there's a couple of different perspectives on the world at large. It's a dangerous place. And the Chinese, they're playing to win. Are we? Are we playing to win? I think we are now with Donald Trump, but were we before? Boy, you have to wonder. I'll take a break. I'll have sports with Brock after this.